All right, here we are back again. I figured we'd go back for, you know, a little bit and cover some more of the family,
Okay.
kind of like family part two.
Okay.
Uh, what what can you tell us about your dad's side of the family?
Okay. So my dad's side of the family had Irish heritage. My dad's father and his mother, I believe both of them were from Newcastle, Pennsylvania,
Right,
but their parents had come from Ireland. And I have
so
a family tree someplace on their half of the family.
right,
There, some of my grandmother's maiden name was Haney, so I
okay,
have a family tree from the Haney family,
right,
which identifies my mother and my grandmother and where her family came from.
right,
I also have information that I researched on my father's side, so I
right,
have my family tree. Our family tree has
right.
that information on it. My grandmother died before I was born.
On your
I'm
dad's
I'm not
side,
sure. I'm not sure if she died giving birth to the last child.
right,
There's five siblings on my dad's side of the family. My dad, he had three sisters and a brother.
right,
So I never knew my grandmother on my dad's mom. My grandfather, my dad's father, he passed away, I'm pretty sure, in the early 40s. And I had to be around 5, 6 years old.
right,
I'd have to go look at the family tree to zero in on the exact dates. I vaguely remember him,
right,
but not well. And we interacted with my aunts and uncles,
right,
my dad's brothers and sisters, up until my mother and dad got divorced in 1951.
right.
And shortly after the divorce, my dad died in January of 1952. So we didn't have much interface with that side of the family afterwards.
And I'm gonna basically lost contact with that side of the family.
Yeah,
Right,
my
right,
my uncle my uncle Francis, he had polio when he was a child,
right,
so he had a severe limp and his growth was handicapped. But he stayed in touch with the family. But I left shortly after.
right.
I left in 1955, so three
Right.
years after my dad passed away, I was gone.
Yeah.
And I went when I would come home on leave. The one time that I came home on leave, when I visited my uncle, but that was the last time that I had any interaction with him. Had no interactions with my aunts. Um, and then my uncle later got married and had a family of his own, and I lost contact with him and never got back with him. I recently found out that I have a cousin from my dad's youngest sister
Right.
who lives in Florida, and I reached out and contacted her, just let her know that she still has family and I still have family
Right.
on that side. But we haven't interacted other than the first time we talked to each other.
Uh, do you know when your great grandparents came over here from Ireland? About when?
I think that there was a mass integration in from Europe around the end of the 1800s, the beginning of the 1900s, and I think they were in that group of people that came that time. I don't know when the potato famine was in Ireland,
Right.
but a lot of people left Ireland.
Right.
They either went to Australia, New Zealand, or the United States.
All right. And so now to your mom's side of the family. All right. Well, let's just first, where were they from?
Okay, so both my grandmother and grandfather are from Sicily, and they're from a town in the middle of Sicily. It's on the top of a mountain called Villarosa.
Right.
Um, Mom and I visited Villarosa in 1995, and it was a pretty neat visit. We actually
Was it modern or
no,
still old?
it was old. I mean, the buildings were old. Apparently, there's a lot of marble in Sicily, marble mines. So
Right.
a lot of the places had a lot of marble in them. we got off the train and got a ride up to the village, which was about 5 miles, 6 miles to the village. And there was a church there, and I wanted to see if I could find the records for my grandparents.
Right.
I could find my grandfather's information in the church, but I couldn't find my grandmother's. And it was starting, they wanted to close. I think it
Right.
was right around noon, and they were going to close for the day. So we gave up the search and went to a restaurant across the street. And the guy who drove us up to Villa Rosa, he said, we got talking. I think he spoke German. He didn't speak English.
Right.
But we communicated that my family came from Villa Rosa and the last name was Cravata. So when we got to the restaurant, he came in with us and he said, I know a Cravata. And he called the gentleman and he came over to the restaurant and met us. And then we sit there and he spoke, he didn't speak English. And the one guy spoke German. So we were talking a bunch of languages, trying to draw family trees and charts
Right.
and figure out if we were related. And I think we agreed that we have been cousins.
Right.
And I'm sure every Cravata in Villa Rosa is a cousin
Right.
somehow.
Right.
So he insisted that we go to his house. So Mom and I drove to his house, beautiful home. Again, a lot of marble in
Right.
there. And he wanted us to stay the night, but we were with Mom's mom and Tante
Right.
Mochka, so we
Right.
had to go back to the where we were staying in Sicily. But he took us to see his mother, and he introduced us to his mother. And the first thing his mother did was brought down a bottle of booze, so we had a drink with his mother in Villa Rosa, Sicily. But it was a nice experience.
So you may have found some cousins.
I'm sure.
when-
I'm sure that there's still relatives. If you go back and look, there's still relatives from the Cravatas.
No, so these were your grandparents that came from Sicily.
Right. These are my grandparents.
And when did they come over?
Again, I'm not sure. I think around. I'm pretty sure my grandfather was born in 1885. So I think around in the 1907, he came with another brother.
Right.
And the other brother, my grandfather moved to Swissvale, Pennsylvania, and the brother moved to Greenville, Pennsylvania. But
Right.
they were periodically we'd meet them, but I didn't know them too well. But my grandparents, my grandmother, I believe she was several years younger than him. I believe she was 17 or something when they were married and started having kids. My Uncle Charlie, who turned out to be a doctor,
Right.
was born in Sicily. So he came over with them.
So that's the first son.
That's the first son. There
Okay.
were 9 siblings.
Right.
Actually, they had 11 children. 2 of them died.
Right.
The 9 siblings were 4 boys and 5 girls.
And your mom's one of the girls.
And my mom's one of the girls.
What can you tell us about your grandmother?
My grandmother didn't speak English. Okay.
You speak Italian?
You know, when I was little, I could say words and stuff.
Right.
Both my mother and father worked. So when they went to work and I was 3, 4 years old, I'd go stay with my grandparents.
Right.
And I remember as a kid eating peppers and olives and Italian bread and a concoction that looked like it was wine, but it wasn't.
Right.
Sitting there with my grandfather, having lunch or a snack. My grandmother didn't speak English, but every time, until I left Pennsylvania, every time that I go down there, which was often, I'd always, when I was out running around, I always go by and say hello to my grandmother.
Right.
First thing she said when you walk in the door is manja, sit down and manja. And
Eat.
she always eat. And
Yeah.
she always had something cooking.
What about, tell us about your grandfather then.
Well, my grandfather was a barber. And actually, the brother that he might immigrated with was also a barber. But my grandfather was the president of the Italian American Club in Pittsburgh,
Right.
which was a fairly good city. And when I was, again, in the 4 or 5 years old, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents.
Right.
And he would take me to the Italian American Club meetings, which
Right.
were, I think, once a month or once a quarter. I don't remember
Yeah.
how often.
Right.
But I would go there, and I actually saw people kissing his ring. And like I in other conversations, I've said, when I come home, my face was all red, covered with lipstick from getting kissed by a bunch of women because I was a grandfather of the president of the Italian American Club.
Now, you had no idea what that kiss in the ring meant.
No,
But you were too young.
I'm 5 years old. I don't know anything,
Yeah.
you know. And again, he had a good acre of property, a large house. It was a single family house, but they made it into a 4-family house
Right.
because I had aunts living on the top, on the side, and uncles in the middle. And my grandparents, again, they were old for me, Jim.
Right.
They were your age,
Right.
your current age.
Right.
So they were old
Right.
as a 5-year-old.
Right.
And my grandmother had heart issues. So the last couple of years that I was home, she had heart issues, and a lot of times I'd go there with my mom and visit her. Again, I'm 10, 11 years
Right.
old, 12 years old. We still lived in Swissvale. And, you know, her health was starting to fail.
What about your aunts and uncles?
All of them lived, I said, around a 20-mile radius with the exception of my Aunt Catherine. She had been married to a guy, a sailor in World War II, but when he came back, they got divorced. And she moved to Maryland. And later on, she got married again. Warren was his name, and I'd have to look up the last. I don't remember off my mind. He was a nice guy. He's a huge guy. I mean, he was really big and heavy.
Right.
But he was a nice guy, and apparently treated her well. And then everybody else lived in the Pittsburgh area. So every holiday, everybody went to my grandparents' house. And I think around that time, were 8, 10, 11 of us as grandkids.
Right.
A couple of them were a little bit older, but those in my age range, we'd go eat at my grandparents' house, and normally we'd go to the movies. And the movies, Swissvale's not real big.
Right.
Probably 3 blocks, 4 blocks from my grandparents' house, cost a nickel. So
Right.
you know, one of my uncles would give one of the kids money and we'd all go watch the movie. And the movies in those days had newsreels and cartoons and then movies, and a lot of them were double features. So it was a all day affair.
Do you ever spend a lot of time with any of the uncles or aunts?
No, I spent time with my grandparents. I didn't spend any time. You know, they all lived in the vicinity. So if I were out doing whatever I'm doing, riding my bike or playing ball or doing anything, and I was there close to them, and I'd stop by and say hello.
Right.
But I wasn't close to anybody.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to end that one here.
Okay.